Alrighty, this video should be super brief as I already went over this in class, but I just want to reiterate what is expected of you for today's lab. So you all should have this sheet that is on the screen here showing all the different traits, and you should also have this piece of paper that explains all the different traits, which is on the back of that sheet. So I'm just going to explain some of the tricky ones that you might not understand on your own and what's expected there, so you know what you're looking for when you're looking at your traits. So like I stated in class, what you're going to be doing is right now you're only filling out this first column that says what are you. So you're going to assess what are your traits dominant or recessive here. So to figure that out, if we look at the front of the explanation paper, it says tongue rolling, the ability to roll the tongue outside the mouth is due to a dominant trait. So if you can make like the little hot dog with your tongue outside of your mouth, you would write dominant in this box. If you cannot, you would write recessive. And remember, dominant means that it is the trait that occurs most often. Recessive, you have to have 2 small letter alleles in order to be recessive. Some other traits that may be tricky for you to are the widow's peak. So remember I talked about the widow's peak in class, but just to show you what that looks like, a widow's peak is on your hair, and if you push your hairline back, a widow's peak is if you have this little triangle at the top of your forehead, that means you do have a widow's peak. Okay, some other tricky ones are the long eyelashes. It's really hard to tell if your eyelashes are long versus short. For this one as well as the next one, the straight thumb, I'm looking at 10 and 11. I would compare those to a classmate. So just see, like, are your eyelashes long compared to another classmate's, as well as the straight thumb. So you might look at your thumb and think it is pretty straight, but then you look at someone else's and you realize it's even straighter, or there's a super bent. So compare to your classmates for those ones to see whether you are recessive or dominant. And then the last tricky one is the clockwise hair whirl. A hair whirl is in the back of your head. It's if your hair spins to the right or to the left. You are going to have a partner for this one to look at the back of your head. It's generally harder if you have longer hair or really curly hair to tell, so just try your best with this one. The last one we're going to be doing is PTC paper. So this is special paper, and you're going to put the paper in your mouth. If you choose not to do this one, that's fine. But if you put the paper in your mouth, you're either going to taste it and it's going to taste bad, or you're not going to taste it at all. If you are able to taste the paper, that means you are showing the dominant trait. If you cannot taste the paper, you're showing the recessive trait. With this, please don't take a whole piece of paper. You can easily split the paper with a partner, and then just take it off your tongue and throw it away, please. If I come back and find pieces of tongue paper all over my classroom, I'm going to be upset. So after you have assessed all of your traits, if you're still, you're going to go up to the front of the room and you're going to look at the dominant and recessive columns, and you're going to add tally marks to whatever you were. So if you were dominant for tongue rolling, please add a tally mark there. If you were recessive for eye color, put a tally mark, and put all your tally marks going all the way down for every single one of the traits. After the entire class has added their tally marks to the front board on whether their traits are dominant or recessive, if I could have one student that will go up and count the number of students for each, that would be great. And then make sure you total the number of students, make sure your numbers are all correct going down, and then you're going to be calculating the percent of each showing the traits. Okay. Your last 2 tasks then for today for this lab are at the bottom. You do have 3 questions to answer. Well, 2 questions, which dominant trait is most common and which recessive trait is most common. And then lastly, you're going to be making a graph. So remember, the graph paper is at the back of the room in our little bin. So make sure to grab a piece of graph paper, and you're going to be responsible for making a double bar graph. Okay, so at the bottom, your x-axis is going to show all the traits. So at the bottom, you're going to label tongue and eye color and earlobes and dimples and widow's peak and so on. And you're going to be making a bar graph for each trait. So show the number of recessive, show the number of dominant, so we can see those things. Remember to make sure you're doing all the things your graph needs. So make sure your graph talks. It has a title, axis, labels, a key, and a scale. You're going to get a decent amount of points for this graph because I know it's going to take a decent amount of time. Make sure your graph includes color as well. Remember, there's colored pencils and markers up in the front polka dot bin. Again, if you have any questions, please be sure to email me. Otherwise, have a good day.